go anywhere. That's right. You can't do any expense everything anyway.
Hey Lawrence, hey, we talked before in an interview about secret societies before. I was wondering if I could just talk to you. I don't know if you've seen the videos.
I think I saw some of your videos. Here's what you really don't want me to do. This interview, because it's really all crazy.
It doesn't have to be crazy. We could talk about sources and you know, real legitimate things like quotes.
You know what we're doing tonight?
Yeah.
We're doing live TV. And the live TV starts in 3 minutes. So I have to go over there and do live TV.
Okay, we'll wait afterwards.
Okay.
We'll wait afterwards. We can have an open discussion.
These are my favorite people for doing interviews that you don't want me to do. What are we going to talk about?
One. It's very easy. It's very easy.
Talk to these guys. I love these guys.
It's very easy. But we won't go into anything. We won't go into the Bilderberg or Bohemian Grove, I promise. Yes, we are.
So they're going to be rolling you trying to get me to not talk to them. So that's your choice. They can roll on you trying to get me to not talk to them, or they can roll on me talking to them.
It's just a conversation. One question, that's it.
The thing is
He's
that
gonna do
all
one
of his
question.
interviews have been pre-booked, so I want to make sure
People
that
just
This is
walked out.
fine.
Come
We're going to do this. It's going to be fine. It's going to be weird, because it's always weird with you guys.
We'll keep it as unweird as we
Yeah,
can.
you can take a picture, sure.
I'll take it.
You can, yeah, you can do it. You can. We're going to do this thing.
Oh, of
And you
course.
can you keep talking. We can talk. Go ahead.
Well,
I'm listening.
I think it's fair to say that MSNBC and yourself have, you know, been leaning
so much, sir.
more favorable of Obama than Romney.
I think that's fair to say.
I was wondering, as a journalist, what do you think of President Obama using the Espionage Act against journalists and whistleblowers more than all the other presidents before him combined, pretty much stopping and creating a chilling effect on journalists who want to,
You guys could have done that
of
before.
course, we could, creating a chilling effect on journalists who really want to expose different stories. He used it against the New York Times author. How do you feel about Obama's behavior towards journalism from his acts?
It's not something I know a lot about. Everything you've just raised is not something I know a lot about. I got to go out this way.
Okay. Do
You always raise stuff that I don't know much about. This is one of those things.
I like bringing up things like that because we of course, as journalists, we don't all know everything.
Right.
But I think, you know,
Stay in here for a second
let's
before I
say
get cold.
it's true. Do you agree with Obama on those actions or not?
I can't really get into it because I don't know the particulars of the cases. I don't know how he's used it. I don't know that he's used the Espionage Act. I have read very little about it, so I'm only vaguely aware of it. So I can't really talk about things I'm vaguely aware of.
The NDAA, what are your thoughts on the National Defense Authorization Act and his indefinite detention provisions, which he strictly said he wouldn't want and he wouldn't use, but now in a court of law is fighting to keep?
You know, I'm not sure about all of that stuff. I don't have strong opinions about that. I really don't. It's, you know, I have strong opinions about the areas of government that I worked in because I developed an expertise in those areas, taxation and international trade and welfare and Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. And having developed that expertise in those areas, it actually makes me pretty humble when it comes to the jurisdictions that I never studied and know very little about. I've always been troubled by all of this Patriot Act stuff, you know, which predates President Obama. Politically, I've never seen how the Democratic president who followed the Patriot Act, no matter who it was, would be able to undo much of that because the politics of that are kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And the Congress probably wouldn't undo it, you know. So you know he could say whatever he wanted, but I think it's a very nerve-wracking area. You know, how much do you change jurisprudentially, and how much do you give up after 9/11 in an attempt to deal with what you think is this new world after 9/11? And it's not an area that I'm particularly strong on figuring out. I grant that we're in a different law enforcement environment after 9/11, and I don't know what, if anything, should be done about it. You know, if it was left to me, and it shouldn't be, and it's why I haven't run for president yet, is that I don't have answers to this. But if you left it to me, I probably would have done nothing. I probably would have changed no law. after 9/11. But obviously, if you saw the way Congress acted, there was going to be a massive move to change laws. So I would have been disinclined to do it. As if I was a senator, I probably would have voted against it, but it would have happened, But I wouldn't have ever have been strongly confident in my view. I just would have been operating on that kind of first do no harm instinct, which would make me go pretty slowly, it's just, I understand there are people who, and rightly so, have thought about nothing else. I mean, Glenn Greenwald writes about this all the time, intently. I read some of what he writes. I don't read all of what he writes. I am really glad that he's doing the work and others do the work of thinking about it really, really intently. And I will confess to you that I don't. And I'm sure people who care about it a lot will hate me for that, but it's true of everything. You're gonna have a hard time finding someone who follows intently every single thing in our government. Okay, you're gonna have a hard time finding somebody who knows everything about the way the Veterans Affairs Administration is working and what it is doing stupidly, and that same person is going to know everything that the Justice Department is doing stupidly, and now what we do know is that every department of government every day is doing something very stupidly, and so that we know, and we have to kind of deploy our resources, and I have to wish Glenn luck and others luck in going off and chasing what they think is righteous in that area of interest. It's just not, doesn't happen to be a thing that I have felt the expertise for. I didn't go to law school, and I don't think that's absolutely necessary in this area, but, it helps. And I don't have a pre-existing interest in that area, prior to 9/11 and prior to it ripening this way, except for just the general, kind of interest in a properly functioning prosecutorial regime in this country, and being very aware that historically the prosecutorial regime has always, in every jurisdiction, state, local, and federal, overwhelmingly been tilted in favor of the prosecutors. So overwhelmingly so, and so that would be my built-in reluctance to tilt it in any way more, in their favor, as has been done with the Patriot Act. And so, anyway, anything else?
It's an issue that really concerned me. I don't want to take up much more of your time.
Do you have any questions for me about Medicare Part B?
No.
See, because I know about that a lot, and I used to work on it, and I used to do the specific cuts in Medicare Part B myself, the specific adjustments in it, along with the Medicare staff and the Senate Finance Committee, and I only raise that as an example.
That we all have our different.
We all have stuff that we're
all ignorant on some level.
I'm blank, on what the FAA does, in terms of air traffic control. I don't know what they do, so I don't have any strong feelings about what they're doing wrong, and I think we can pick that, for anybody. The thing is, somebody with a show like mine, I think it's perfectly understandable that people assume that I'm going to cover everything and I have jurisdiction over everything on my TV show, which I theoretically do. But there are plenty of things that I very deliberately don't talk about because I know nothing about it. This isn't one of them. I mean, I'll talk about it whenever it's relevant, and Glenn's been on my show a lot, and other people, I'll have them on. But the way I would have to do that on my show is basically bring on the guests to do it, because I haven't done the lifetime of homework, or there's now a good solid 10 years of homework that people have done in this area, and I haven't. And so, but, on all sorts of other things, I mean, we have a 30,000-page tax code that I used to write pages of and work on, and I have drowned in that, for my expertise. And And, you know, anyway, that's the way I think about this.
We all have our different expertise in different areas that we find important, and we're all ignorant on some levels as well. But I do have to say, I don't want to hold you for too long because I know you're a citizen waiting. You want to leave? I don't want.
I think you're concerned. The question you're asking about, you know, Espionage Act and this stuff with journalists is a very serious concern that should be pursued and should be worried about all the way through. And I do have the sensation that the public worry about that is not loud enough and consistent enough. I absolutely have that sensation, and you're kind of making me make a mental note to dig into that more.
That's why I'm trying to bring it up and raise the conversation, because it's not really brought up. If I could say one thing to you, some things you said I agree, some things I disagree, but I do have to say I respect you immensely for your honesty. You're willing to say things that other people aren't, and I just want to say I respect you and thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
As always.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Will I see you in Florida? You're gonna
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. Thank you, Lawrence.
Look at your picture.
Hey, don't put your hand on me. You were just called an undercover cop, right? You just assaulted me. Hey, I want charges pressed on this guy. They actually targeted and found Julio a week later when he was having dinner at Union Station, came up to him and tried to intimidate and harass him. But as a good journalist always does, he took out the video camera and recorded everything that happened.
What's the law?
Are you going to listen?